Smash Brothers isn't a port! Of course it's not, and we're gonna tell you why.
Hot take!
Okay, folks, there has been a heavy conversation and debate online right now about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate just being a port of the Smash Bros. Wii U release.
Shane, that ain't true!
It's not. It's not, and I'm getting really upset because a lot of folks out there don't seem to understand what a port is. Now, there's a huge argument about this, but I just want to break this down so you can understand. A port is when you take a game that existed on another platform and you bring it over and you try to keep the game as close as possible. You can add things, you can change things.
Right.
For instance, Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U was ported over to the Switch in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. All they did was they kept the same basic game, everything is pretty much the same there, and they changed over one or two elements, and they also created the battle modes different too, right?
Oh, that's true. They went back to the sort of more classic type of battle mode.
Yes. Yeah. Now, there are several instances of ports having these kind of changes one over the other, and we've seen ports, like we grew up in the era of ports, right?
Absolutely.
Like where you'd have the NES, the SNES, the Sega Genesis.
You had PC ports galore as well.
PlayStation and Dreamcast. I mean, sometimes you had ports that were made after the fact, after a game had been released after a while. And you know what's really interesting? We're seeing ports right now being released on the Switch consistently every single day. And there's a lot of gamers out there that can basically see this stuff and have a little bit of an anger thing because they don't want the Switch to get so many ports because they feel that they're not getting enough new titles. But Wolfenstein, the New Blood?
No, Shadow of the New Colossus.
The New Colossus, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was going to say Shadow of the Colossus. Great game, not on the Switch.
But yeah, so that is a port brought over to the Switch. Doom, actually, is a port, right?
Yes,
and now look.
And we had Donkey Kong Tropical Breeze.
That's a port.
We had Captain Toad Treasure Tracker as well.
That's a port.
Yeah, so we've seen quite a few games ported.
We do get a lot of ports on the Switch. And I get that, right? People are angry on that front. But what you're seeing with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is not a port, and here is exactly why. It's not the same game.
Nope.
Now, we saw some folks at Nintendo talk about how they actually built the game from the ground up again. That's a half-truth. I know that we should be listening to them directly, but I personally looked at the difference between the Wii U version and the Switch version side by side with video comparisons, and clearly this has a lot of elements that are the same from the Wii U version. Now, let's just look at it this way. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that they're using the exact same engine from the Wii U version. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a port, it just means it's the same version. Even if the same engine is being used for Splatoon 2 that they made Splatoon 1 off of, that engine was ported on another system to another system. So it isn't it's a sequel, right? Yes, the gameplay's the same, but it's a new story, it's a new single-player experience.
There's so many new assets created for this, as well as like gameplay types and things, that it couldn't possibly be a port.
Exactly. Now, what you're seeing with the Smash Bros. Ultimate release is that they're going back and they're reutilizing a lot of older assets, and they're porting those assets. Now,
so we're not 100% sure about this, though we have looked at footage, and it does seem like that may be the case in some instances.
This is our opinion, basically. We can't tell you for a definitive case, but when Nintendo said that they rebuilt the game from scratch, I personally think that really is a half-truth, because we compared the images of Lucario side by side, and Lucario's model is the exact same model with some minor changes to the textures to give it a bit more definition. This new version for Switch seems to utilize a better lighting system, so the model kind of looks a little bit different, but overall it kind of seems the same. You're seeing the same levels move forward as well, but the levels have been modified and additional pieces have been done there, right?
Right. Yeah, they've been modified, they've been changed, and we've seen some new levels as well. Like there's a new Breath of the Wild level, and the Splatoon level as well for the new Splatoon characters.
Now, like what we saw with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where they added new content there, right? Super Smash Bros. Ultimate doesn't really follow the same status quo because the basic game has changed, right? You're getting a whole bunch of new characters, a whole bunch of new assets, a whole bunch of new levels, a redefining factor that the engine
Like, I have a whole list of tweaks and things right here. So, like, they've incorporated a mini-map now so that if you're knocked out of the arena, like, it shows where people are placed on the map, even though they're not exactly on the screen at that time. Like, there've been tweaks to, like, characters, like their clothing, their costumes, their move sets. There's so much. Voice acting has changed. change with Ike. They showed a clear example of that in the Direct. There's just so many tweaks to look at. I just have a gigantic list here, and
just because they're tweaks, right? That doesn't really necessitate that. Basically, say that the entire thing isn't itself a port.
Right.
But what changes that is that when you essentially want to go and play that single player mode, it has now changed completely. Mm-hmm. The idea that you have so many different characters that are now basically being a completely different experience. Now, there's a couple gamers out there that are basically calling Super Smash Bros. Ultimate just a 0.5 upgrade. And I can understand that viewpoint, but a 0.5 upgrade isn't a port.
No.
Even then, it's still a change, right? Like you're seeing all, and I don't agree that it's true either.
I really feel like this is closer to like a Street Fighter 4 going to a Street Fighter 5 than it is like a port.
Yeah.
I would say. It feels more like a new game. Because, you get the same characters in a lot of those games, right? And sometimes they're even scaled down, the roster. You get a lot of the same levels as well. Like, we've seen some of the same levels come back. True. It's the same thing, pretty much. Like, we have noticed, we think that there are some assets that are reused. So, there may be some, like, moving over of assets there, but
I think that's fine, right? Like, we when they released Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate, right? Ultimate utilized a bunch of older character models and stuff like that and brought them forward into the newer game.
Isn't that strange that they're both Ultimate?
Yeah, right? Kind of weird, like they got it from somewhere else. But we've seen this with Street Fighter. We've seen this with a bunch of other fighting games. We've seen this with a bunch of other games in general, where they actually take the game and add a whole bunch of extra features and do a bunch of things. Look, you can't, if you were to compare the Wii U version against the Switch version, you're going to have a completely different gameplay experience, not just from the controls, not just from the rule set, not just from the character selection, not just from the level selection, but from the entire feel of the game because of that, right?
Even assets, as simple as like the player cards coming in at the beginning of the matches have changed. So many little things have changed in this, as well as bringing back like old characters that we haven't seen since like Brawl, and Melee. There's no way that you could classify this as a direct port.
In fact, here's a great example. The 3DS version of this game was one of the reasons why they couldn't bring the Ice Climbers back. And the reason they couldn't was because the 3DS version apparently wasn't powerful enough to deal with that, or it had a number of issues. So they actually couldn't bring that character back in totality. So what you got now is the Ice Climbers are back in this version of the game, which inherently by its existence itself means the game engine has significantly changed. Plus, you need to consider this, the Wii U hardware and the Switch hardware are not the same thing.
No.
So even if they're using the same engine, the engine had to be modified and changed and ported over, but that means that the entire game itself also had to have a whole bunch of changes as well. If all they did was take the Wii U version, bring it over, and add maybe one character or one map or something like that, or even take all the stuff that was from the 3DS version and put it onto this one, then yes, I would agree, that's just a port. But they didn't do that here. They've added basically everything.
In that Direct, they showed off so much content. Basically, to me, it was proving that this wasn't a port. Like, here's all the little things that we've done, including these new characters and characters you haven't seen in years that are here. This is Ultimate. This is a new game.
Yeah. And I think that's really what I'm basically looking at here. And remember, if you see the Wii U version, you know that the Wii U version's engine is different from the Smash, or sorry, the Brawl version, right? And it's different from the Melee version.
Of course.
So to see a character from those older games be brought over here, it has to be retooled. Even if it's the same looking model, they had to retool it.
They're not, though.
Yeah.
But even if.
They had to modify the models, they had to modify the sets. There's a whole bunch of additional features. For instance, everybody knows Kirby's move is to, like, eat people and then
gain their
powers, right? Yeah. So now Kirby has to have all these this extra model work done that typically wasn't in the Wii U version, right? They didn't put in a Snake model because why would that be there in the Wii U version? Snake wasn't in the Wii U version, right? And those are the kind of things that really do make this an entirely new experience because they had to really go in there and just modify and change and add a whole bunch of things.
I want to add too, like you talked about Lucario and the models being very similar, which it could very well be true, but we have seen other models that are from previous Smashes that aren't the same.
Zelda, actually. That's a great example.
Exactly.
She's completely different.
Zelda's completely different. Samus, Zero Suit Samus is different as well. So yeah, it's pretty bluntly obvious that it's not just a hack job of like, okay, let's just bring this over here and collect money.
That's true, yeah.
Right.
And I mean, if all they did, and I swear, if all they did was just take exactly the same assets that you saw from the old versions and wholesale just rip them and put them into this game without any care, passion, or love, then yeah, there might be some argument about this just being a port. But they didn't do that here. They clearly didn't. They showed you a difference between the stages and the levels. Even if the framework and the level design itself has just been brought over and they've changed the textures, they've added more definition to the level and the stage.
Which they have.
That means that the game has just been changed. It's not the same anymore. Now, when I say a porting of assets, that doesn't mean that it's the game itself is a port. You can take assets from other games and bring them over, but it doesn't mean that the entire game itself is itself a port. And I think the argument out there that people have been having is maybe that they might feel a little burnt off by Nintendo. They might feel they've been a little bit ripped off or something like that.
Because of the ports previously?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. And maybe they were expecting a completely new experience that had a whole new character set.
I want to know,
like
though, what if people wanted, like, what is this new experience? Is it just a whole new character roster? Because if they did that,
yeah,
there's no Mario.
I know.
Like, what do you want? What do you expect?
What they've done here, I was so excited to see this, because what they've done here is they've taken everything that I've loved from Smash over the years and they've put it into one package. This is something that I've wanted ever since the Wii U version was announced and they said Snake wasn't showing up.
Yeah,
that sucked.
That's right. He skipped one generation, right? Because he was in Brawl.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
So now they're going back and just adding everything in. This is the ultimate Smash game,
it's
right?
like they've listened to fans and they said, "Hey, we're gonna take what you wanted and you bring back all the characters that you've enjoyed playing and put them all here and do some tweaks and things just to make the gameplay experience that much better."
Yeah, I mean, just think about it this way too. Let's just talk about this briefly. Let's just say they went out and they went, okay, entirely new Smash game. Let's say they keep the basic roster of like Mario, Link, all those folks,
like the N64 roster, basically.
And then they added maybe 10 or 20 extra characters, and then a whole bunch of new levels, maybe brought one or two levels back.
Is, like, all these characters are from core IP,
Yeah.
Most of them are.
It would have been really difficult.
So...
And you know what? If they had done something like that, everyone would have got a new Smash Brothers game. But who cares?
It's not a game that I think people would want.
Yeah.
These are the beloved characters that people have always wanted. So.
I personally think more people would have complained about a brand new Smash Brothers game than what we got now. And I think the idea of everyone being upset... Now, look, folks, you know me. I've been a little critical of Nintendo in the past. Maybe some would say a little bit extra critical because I expect a lot from Nintendo.
No comment.
But in this one instance... they are really doing the fans a good service by making this game. And I think that the fans out there, the hardcore fans, and you guys have talked to me, you've sent me messages on Twitter and everything, and I've seen it. When you guys talk about being upset about this release and being upset about this just being a port from what you guys call it, you're not upset at the game. You're upset at Nintendo because you feel that Nintendo's spinning their wheels with the Switch. We get that, all right? We feel that the Switch could be doing a lot more. We feel there could be a lot more third-party support out there. And I think people are just making this Switch version of Smash Brothers their attacking
target.
point.
Their target, yeah.
They've had enough, and this is the way they attack it. But folks, I don't think that's fair. I think that if you've been on the Switch and you've been listening to us talk about the console for now, you should have come to understand that this is what they were going to do with the system. Now, personally, there was a couple things out there that did bug me when we saw the E3 announcements and stuff like that. One of the things was we didn't get to see a new Metroid.
Right.
And Reggie Fils-Aimé went out and said, well, we don't like to tease games unless we have something to show. But you showed us the Metroid Prime 4 intro title card thing.
We don't want to veer too much off topic.
True. But see, you guys are not upset about Switch, Smash Brothers Ultimate. You're upset because of this conference in general didn't give you what you were looking for.
So my hope is, and again, this is a bit off topic, so hopefully we get back on track, but my hope is that we will see the trickle out of other directs during the year, and then we'll get some substance through those. That's like the best scenario for me, because I was a little disappointed with this direct. I love Nintendo, and I love Nintendo consoles. I want more games to play on Switches. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I think Nintendo dedicated half of their showing to this version of Smash Brothers because they were really excited about this and they assumed everyone was going to be on board. And they should be, yeah.
This is a console seller for so many people. This is going to sell like crazy.
This version replaces the Wii U version. This version replaces the Brawl version. This version may not replace the Melee version because as far as we're to understand, and you know what? Another reason why I think people might be a little upset, no wave dashing.
Right. Yeah, there have been some tweaks and things, but wave dashing was a move that was kind of discovered. Like
it was a glitch.
Yeah, right. Who's to say that there isn't some other little nugget in this new game that people are going to really love? Like, give it a chance.
There's definitely going to be that stuff, but unlike in the past with Melee, where they couldn't patch that out, you're now going to have versions of this game where they're going to patch these things out of Discover.
If there was a wave dash, they could technically patch it out, I guess.
I understand that there's a lot of gamers out there that like using the wave dash mechanics and the edge hugging is what it's called when you get to the edge of a stage and you fall down, fall up, fall down, fall up, and you have like a little bit of invincibility. And I get that you see that in the professional circuit where people are playing Melee. Melee is still going to exist tomorrow, but right now Nintendo is trying to make the best version of Smash they've ever made with this entirely new piece of hardware. And frankly, Smash on the go with the 3DS sucked. I hated the controls of it. I thought it was a bad choice. And then they had to outline all the characters with black just so you could see them on the tiny screen. Yeah. But with Smash on Switch, you got a bigger screen, and I'm to understand 720p at 60 frames per second portable.
60 frames per second.
At 60 frames per second on your TV. This is fantastic. This is what you want. You want that speed, you want that portability.
You need
you
get
all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no longer are you getting a completely different version in the portable mode. You're getting the exact same version wherever you go. This is amazing. I'm so excited about this. When my friends and I go to conventions, we can take out a Switch, take out our controllers, and just start playing the game right there without having to plug it into a TV. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine, like, you and I have been to conventions now, and we've seen a whole bunch of people playing Smash Brothers in, like, tournaments and stuff like that, and they've got all these big CRT screens everywhere for the Melee version. Well, now you're going to see everyone just popping out a Switch on the desk.
That's true. We have seen Switches at these conventions as well. People bring Switches everywhere, and it's going to be exciting to see the, like, matches on these little screens or plugged into a hotel TV or whatever. I mean, it's the console makes playing a game like Smash like so much easier.
And you know, a couple of things they showed off in this version, the changes that we were talking about earlier, look really exciting and interesting.
Dude, absolutely.
Especially the like the whole shield system now, where
the shield system, and for your Super Smash, like there's it takes a little longer to charge up, or you can hold it for longer, so there's more of a strategy element to it. Other characters' move sets have changed. It is like a whole new experience.
Yeah, you know, folks. Even if this was a port, even if it was, the amount of things they've changed on here would not be worth the argument because they've done enough to warrant what it exists. But it isn't a port, and that's pretty much how it's going to be. But there's going to be a bunch of you out there that are still going to argue with us, so I want to hear your opinions in the comments below.
Please be kind.
If you believe it is a port,
please be kind.
What are your reasons? Why do you feel that way? And what's going to change your mind about this if they basically release a whole bunch of other new things? Let us know in the comments below.